This conference will now be recorded.
I know we're all Indians here, but just want to know if anyone is in other parts of the world.
Yeah, I'm from US.
Okay, so is it what noon now?
Yeah, it's noon,
It's fine. It's fine for you.
10:30.
It works. This time
Yeah, it
works.
works. Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, that's great, Rahul. Yeah, that's my question. Anyway, all right. So I see people joining in. That's a good thing. So I'm a bit low this week, recovering from a fever. But my voice, I think, is slightly different than this. Uh, all right. Do you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Kiran.
Okay. I think folks in India, I think it's a little late. I know. If you already had dinner, you might also feel sleepy. But let's try to make this engaging.
Is this the first session or some sessions are over?
No, this is the first session. We had a demo. We had, in fact, two demos. So yeah, this is the first ever session for this course. And you can see the recording of the demo. You can go through
Okay.
that if you would like to. Basically, it talks about what is cloud, what is DevOps, and what we are going to cover in the course, stuff like that. Okay, I don't have any presentation for today, but maybe for those who have not attended the demo, I can just show the slide about myself and blow my own trumpet. Okay, yeah, those who have not attended the demo, my name is Kiran. Yeah, and as you can see, I have about 13 years of experience. I worked on both on-premise and public cloud. When I say on-premise, it's like your traditional data center. We'll talk about that. And I consider myself expert in container orchestration, that is Kubernetes. I am certified in certified as Azure Solutions Architect as well as Kubernetes administrator. I worked for large companies as well as startups as well in my last 13 years. Yeah, and I have taken more than or given training for more than 25 batches. That's about me in a nutshell.
Hey, Kiran. Hello, Kiran. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thanks, Venkata, for confirming. Not sure if Kiran is available. Kiran, you there? Okay, let me come back when he is back.
Hello, is this started or waiting for the trainer? Am I audible?
Hello, hello, Kiran. We can't hear you if you are speaking.
Is someone talking? The train is started the training, or he has some technical problem?
Hello all. Kiran is not audible to me. Is the problem persist to me or to everyone?
No, he's not audible at all. We can hear you,
Uh,
but he's whatever he's talking, I can't hear you.
No, even I can't
oh,
hear.
okay. Okay, fine then. Okay. Maybe some technical issue from his end then.
Right. Someone
Okay.
has to inform him.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hello,
Yeah, Ravi.
Kiran. Yeah.
Yeah, Kiran. Finally, we got you.
What's wrong? Hello.
Sure.
Hello.
Yeah, Kiran. Yeah, Kiran, we can hear you.
Okay, so where did you lose me? I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened.
Long back. Long back.
Okay, so did you even follow my introduction or,
Course content, maybe, if I'm not wrong. During course
okay,
content, we lost you.
okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. My laptop is behaving weird. Okay, anyway, so these are the topics we are going to cover. From the operating system perspective, Linux and cloud is Azure. Version control, where developers store code and using Git they store code they store it in GitHub or some other equivalent thing. Okay, we'll also understand about Azure repos a little bit, not much, because I don't want to confuse you. We'll focus on GitHub. And then for infrastructure as code, which is an automation tool, automation to create infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, it could be your VMs, virtual machines, or you know, SQL servers, or any kind of um, infrastructure you can create with Terraform, not only on Azure but anywhere else as well. But we are going to focus on Azure. Of course, we're going to learn a bit about Azure command line as well. That's important for us. And from the CI/CD perspective, we are going to learn GitHub Actions. Okay, I'm not sure if you followed the part where I said Jenkins is a very good tool, still being widely used, but the market is, focusing more and more on GitHub Actions. Okay, um, you know, you know, um, Microsoft has bought out GitHub, or in official terms, acquired GitHub. So now Azure DevOps, there is a tool called as Azure DevOps. It's a platform. I mean, Azure Cloud is one part and Azure DevOps is another part. I mean, the both are part of Azure Cloud, but Azure DevOps is primarily meant for CI/CD and other stuff. But as as Microsoft has also acquired GitHub, okay, now both of them are part of Microsoft family. So Microsoft already knows that GitHub is very, very, very popular among open source and other communities. So they're putting a lot of emphasis on GitHub Actions rather than Azure DevOps these days. So we're going to learn GitHub and GitHub Actions and how to do CI/CD. So the important aspect is not the tooling, but how CI/CD is done, what are the best practices, and why do we do that, and what we try to achieve through it. Okay, someone had a question.
Can you also cover Jenkins in the CI/CD, like some part
uh,
of the Jenkins?
See, that becomes a problem, right? See, we can scrap GitHub Actions and go with Jenkins. I am okay with that. uh, but what happens is if you focus on too many tools, right? So maybe the concentration goes here and there. That's my
Okay.
point. I don't want to really make it a let's see how it goes. I mean, my take is we'll go with GitHub Actions, but
Okay.
if majority of you all think Jenkins is the better tool, or Jenkins is what you want to learn, I can go with that as well. See, it's
Or
the
else we
principle
can
is.
go after completion of the all the course curriculum.
Yeah, if time
Yeah.
permits, definitely I can
Yeah.
maybe send you a recorded video, or maybe have a session live. I will do everything in preparation, or maybe I'll give you a task of creating Jenkins setup, infrastructure setup. See, in case of GitHub Actions, there is no setup that we need to do because it's a SaaS solution, software as a service solution. In case of Jenkins, we'll have to do our own setup. So maybe I'll give it as a task, mini project to you, to create with Terraform or something, and you can come back and we can do it. That's also fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Kiran.
we can do that. Not a problem. But yeah, let's not miss the flow of the CI/CD part. Yeah,
Sure.
and coming to containers and orchestration, we will learn Docker and Kubernetes. From the monitoring perspective, again, we we we, we can be as good as the production grade, but we are not production grade. But we'll try to understand the concepts of monitoring of a cloud using Azure Monitor, and also general monitoring through Prometheus and Grafana. All right. Um, so these are very high level topics. Again, there are multiple subtopics in each of them, and we will not go in any specific order, because before we start Linux, we want to have a subscription in Azure so that you can create VMs, so that you understand how SSH works. Okay. um, so it's going to be like, first, I mean, I did not put any basics here, but the first week is more about the basics, which I'm going to start in a minute, in a few minutes. Okay, but once we have the basic understanding of what Azure is, or what are the principles around Azure subscriptions, how do we sign up for a subscription, and what is a user account versus versus a subscription, and all that stuff, then we will understand how to create a virtual machine on Azure. That's when we are going to start Linux, because now you know how to create a VM. You don't have to do anything on your local laptop. You can create it from Azure and start practicing on your machine. Start practicing on Azure virtual machine. Of course, you will have to have some discipline here. Once your practice is done, you have to delete that virtual machine from Azure. Otherwise, you will you will be given some 15,000 INR, uh, and that will be exhausted within a very few days. So we have to have some discipline and some due diligence. So it's not going to be in the same order, because, for example, I'm going to cover some part of CI/CD even before Docker and Kubernetes. But once we cover Docker and Kubernetes, also we'll come back to GitHub Actions and see how we can do CI/CD for a Kubernetes cluster. All right. And again, when we come back to Kubernetes, maybe I'll cover some of the Azure concepts as well, like storage and other parts. Okay, so it's not going to be in the order, but there is a logical flow to it. Okay, so that you understand the topics easy, and follow one after the other. All right. So once we, for example, once we understand the shell scripting part in the Linux, what we are going to do is, the next thing is we're going to do how to store this script that you write in a GitHub repository. So that's when we start Git and GitHub. Okay, that's how we are going to go. Okay, any questions so far?
So the Docker and Kubernetes is going to be, we're going to talk much on this course.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we will have
Yeah. Okay.
enough sessions for both of them. But again, like I said, for you to understand, for anyone to understand Docker, of course, we have to have a good understanding of Linux. Okay, and also uh, this course is not primarily focused on Docker Kubernetes alone, but yeah, they're very crucial. Yeah, because there are important topics in Azure to be covered. So yeah, we will have important emphasis on the cloud as well as the DevOps part as well. Okay, but yes, Docker and Kubernetes, they will have important, I mean, they will definitely have importance. We will also do a project on that. Okay.
Yeah, Kiran, Raghu this said. So, to
Mhm.
what extent we involve deeply on Kubernetes and Docker on containerization?
So see, when we talk about Docker, right? I'm not going to simply say take a Docker file and deploy it. We'll understand from basics how to create a Docker file, for instance, and how to create a Docker container image from the scratch, and how do you deploy it locally with a simple Docker file, or Docker run command. Then how do you take the same container image and put it in Kubernetes, and how do you work with the environment variables, and all these things we are going to discuss. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah,
second doubt I
and
have.
mhm.
Sorry, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Complete it.
Yeah, again, I mean, just a word of caution, Kubernetes is a very vast topic, right? And there are a lot of emerging pieces coming up. But what we're going to cover is, you know you you will have the feel that you have already deployed a production ready cluster in Kubernetes. Okay, but there are many advanced features, all of which, for the sake of time, we cannot cover. Like, for example, we have CRDs, custom resource definitions, we have operators and all that, which will not be covered in this course. But you can deploy an application end to end, including an ingress and load balancer and everything. Okay.
Okay. And the second point is, so I'm not from the open systems background. I'm from legacy background.
Mhm.
So this DevOps part is like a admin and controlling part, right? So patchwork we can able to do so based on that. And if you want to establish something means infra or platform, so can that be done with this course? Just out of
Uh,
curiosity.
no, I mean, I really did not get that question, but I understand your point. See, DevOps today means, and this is to everyone in general. DevOps today means so many things to so many people. Okay, if you read a book by Google called as SRE, they say DevOps is not a job title. Devo- DevOps engineer is not a job title, but it is a culture practiced by everyone in your organization. Okay, um, but that's not the reality, right? We know that there are a lot of DevOps engineer positions, and again, there is one slide where I put in what a DevOps person might do. See, this is one of the aspects, right? Own and manage IT infrastructure for an application or a set of applications. It's not always. So I worked in organizations where I'm responsible for managing the infrastructure from patching, okay, any automation activities or deployments, manual, automated, everything. Uh, Plus any all the monitoring and alerting. You have to set up the monitoring and alerting, and be responsible for any weekend outages or what we call on-call rotation, right? All that we used to do. In some places we are only responsible all the way till application deployment, CI/CD part, setup, configuration management, CI/CD, and monitoring. There is a L2 team or level 2 team, and they will take care of it. Okay, only in case of any advanced troubleshooting they will call us for on-call support or anything. Okay, and in some cases, you only are responsible to, let's say, take care of the infrastructure provisioning. Okay, I have not worked in such a role, but there are people who's primarily work on, like, let's say, building Terraform configuration, testing it, or running Ansible playbooks. That's the only part they do. Okay, so there is no what do you call, homogeneous definition of how DevOps engineer works. uh, there are some if you're thinking about a large organization, right? um, the way it works is, um, the management, higher management particularly, doesn't want to leave any control of the infrastructure. So it's not like you have your VMs and you can decide when you want to patch, right? All your VMs will be patched by a central patching team. Okay. um, uh, a GHS team or whatever you call it, global data warehouse teams or whatever. They take the responsibility of patching, and then only thing you're responsible is, like, from the deployment and the configuration. Like, you want to do a Tomcat upgrade to your servers. Yes, your team can decide when to do. Okay. um, in some enterprises, I'm talking about large scale organizations. But let's say you're working for a small and medium enterprise or a startup, where you everything is cloud, right? Everything is on cloud. So you decide everything. You, in the sense, your team has its own cloud account. um, they might also have a do it all on your account, like, full control on the cloud, and they can decide when to do what and all that. Okay, they might not even be doing patching. There is a concept called as, you might have heard about it, immutable infrastructure. Immutable infrastructure is, we Indians don't like this example. I mean, I'm not switching off the topic, but immutable infrastructure is again another advanced way of managing your you know infrastructure. You don't do patches on the system. You just remove the old system and put the new system in that place. Okay, remove the old VM which is running the older version. But before you remove the old VM, what you do is you build a new VM, you test it, and once you see it's working, remove the old VM. Okay. So once the VM is built and run, you don't make any changes. If there is a new change to be done, again you will build a new VM and remove the old VM. It goes in a cycle. That's immutable infrastructure anyway. But it depends, right? It depends. There are many aspects to it. How your organization's governance is defined. When I say governance, like, who controls what, right? So yeah, there is no one single answer to your question in a way.
Got it. So uh, can I consider it's more of a L1 plus L2 support?
Uh, I would say it's L2 plus plus because L1 see L1 support is mostly replaced by chatbots or some service now automation these days if you ask me.
O-
Okay,
Okay.
L2 maybe they are still doing some manual tasks, so it's more of L3-ish job. Okay, but again,
Okay.
uh, see in for the current client I work, there is an L2 support, and we are part of what they call it as uh, we are part of what they call it as L3 support. Also, we are known as SRE engineers. Okay, so different organizations call us different names, but what we are
SRE,
primarily responsible.
SRE,
SRE,
SRE, you
yes,
mean to
yeah,
say?
site reliability
Uh, uh,
engineering, yeah.
uh, uh, okay.
But what we are primarily doing is managing our application on the VM and above. Okay, below the VM, like not even the patching. We are not even responsible for the patching. Okay, but the configuration and above, we take care of it, deployments and everything. But production issues, L2 is the first line of contact. They will do everything. If they can't troubleshoot, then they call us. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I worked in a startup where we had the admin rights to our cloud subscription, at least to the dev. There is a dev separate cluster and subscription, and prod separate subscription, and in prod we have limited rights, but in dev we can do whatever we want to. In prod also we can do, but of course with an approval and all that stuff. Anyway, we're digressing. We can talk all these things later,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah. Please. I mean to say that because this is my
yeah, yeah,
personal questions. Okay. Okay.
yeah, no
Let's not
worries, no
waste
worries.
others' times.
Yeah, yeah. So don't worry if all these topics are all these words look like jargon and you have never heard. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, 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 Kiran.
Okay, all right. So again, coming back to the prerequisites, I would say these are the prerequisites. You need a laptop, desktop, whatever it is, but don't join from a phone or an iPad. I don't like that. From the subscriptions perspective, you would need an Azure free tier subscription. One key thing to remember, again, I told this in demos, you would need a credit card. Unfortunately, Azure doesn't accept debit card like AWS does. But you won't be charged anything unless you do something very, very stupid and leave your systems. Of course, you will not be charged in free tier. What happens is maximum your credit will be over and it will ask you to. 1 second, please. I have a P1 ticket here. Okay, sorry about that. Uh, like I was saying, right? Azure free tier subscription, for the sign up, you will need a credit card. You will be charged like 2 rupees or 1 USD based or €1 based on wherever you're located, and it will be returned back to your account. This is only required as an identity check. Okay, so this is a one-time process. So you don't have to worry, but you have to find a credit card or someone who trusts you and gives you a credit card, and you have to create a GitHub account, again free. No credit card, nothing is required. Docker Hub account, again free. But Azure free tier, we all must create it somehow. Please get it. Otherwise, you cannot practice Azure. Okay, you cannot practice Linux, you cannot practice Kubernetes, you cannot practice anything. Okay, from the software that you need to install on your laptops or desktops is um, Git, Azure CLI, and Docker and VS Code. Again, these are all easily available, free softwares, nothing to pay and anything. Okay. Personally, people ask me so many questions. Do I need coding experience? Do I need, what do you call, some programming experience and all? I would say if you have it, wonderful. If you don't have it, that's fine. We are going to begin everything from um, basics, right? We will start from shell scripting, how shell scripting works. We'll do a bit of Terraform. When it comes to Kubernetes, we'll learn YAML. All of this is not programming, folks. This is more of coding. Okay, this is more about understanding how the code looks like, and understanding some basic syntax, right? It's like uh, it's not very deep, like you need to know the algorithms, you need to know the sorting, you need to know the recursing and all that. No. Yes, when I talk about shell scripting, I will talk about basic fundamentals of programming, like conditionals. What is a if condition? What is a for loop? Okay, what are variables and stuff like that. Okay, but none of these are like really programming stuff. You can easily understand them. I say only one thing: don't be afraid of the code. Okay, so if you want to be a DevOps engineer or a QA engineer or anything, uh, you have to understand some. You have to do automation in your role. So coding is very very important. Okay. So that's the recap of the demo. It took longer than I expected. Any questions before we proceed to today's topic?
Kiran, I have one important question. You
Hmm.
mentioned that point, actually, that's very good. You said laptop is compulsory. Problem is, I don't
Hmm.
have personal laptop. Company will allow me to open Azure portal, fine, but is there anything like in your like visual for it will
Yeah.
if I connect through phone, it will give visual disturbance or something.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm,
But I would recommend. Is there a go-to app for TVs? I don't know. But I would recommend a larger screen. If you don't have, that's fine, I guess. Uh, yeah,
yeah, before joining only, I wanted to. I missed that point. I don't
yeah,
have
that's
personal
fine.
laptop.
But you cannot access GoToMeeting on your office laptop, right? You don't want to risk that.
Ah, no.
Hmm.
No.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, depends upon how your eyesight is and how good is your phone resolution. Um,
Mm.
yeah, but again, one personal advice. I mean, free advice, Uchita
I
Salaha.
got it. I got it. Tomorrow I
But
will
try to
ask
get a personal laptop, all of
my.
you. No matter how how
I
low
have.
configuration it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know uh, jobs are all volatile these days. You need to have okay. So yeah, try to get laptops. If not, that's fine. Okay. Sorry, who is this that has asked the question?
Kaustu.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So what I recommend is, yeah, you can still practice on your office laptop with Azure portal. You see if your I think your office repository already will have something like Git to be installed, right?
Git is there.
Git is there, right? So you should also have,
Everything else is there. Docker,
okay.
I can
Yeah,
install.
yeah,
I already
yeah,
installed.
yeah. You can
Yeah.
install, I mean, Git Bash has a CLI, right? So through that CLI, you can access anything, or you can access through Azure Cloud Shell also. That's fine, I guess. You're okay then. I mean, I'm
Hello,
talking
Oh,
about a scenario. Yeah, I'm talking about a
Kiran.
scenario where
Yeah,
there is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one suggestion.
go on,
One
please.
suggestion. Sorry, Raghu.
Hmm.
Raghu, this said. Yeah,
Hmm.
when you're downloading some softwares into your personal laptops, please see the provision if you have or not.
Provision for what? Sorry.
Provision to download softwares or not. Otherwise, it will lead to a compliance issues.
Yeah, yeah. For the work laptop, right? Yes, yes. Not on the personal laptop,
working
unless
laptop.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's
Yeah,
why I
I
said
will ask
That will
IT people.
unnecessarily.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know, I know. That's why I'm checking. I'm asking you to check from his own repository because these are all authorized anyways. Most of the organizations have them. See, I worked for a banking customer which has the like oldest possible compliance rules, but they still allowed us to use Git at least. I know that much. Okay, because that's the bare minimum. Okay, VS Code is also allowed these days. Anyway, yeah, no problem. Kaustav, I think you should be good. Just that your eyes might be strained. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions
Yeah.
before we move into the course?
Like, would there be drastic difference between DevOps with AWS and DevOps with Azure, or only the terminologies would be differing?
Uh, See, DevOps itself can be applied for AWS, Azure, on-premise, hybrid cloud. These days hybrid cloud is also a reality. There are organizations which work, let's say, I worked for some Australian insurance client. They acquired a smaller client. Okay. When they acquired a smaller client, the smaller client had their resources on AWS. The bigger client or the original client had their resources on Azure. So they're managing both of them till some time at least. Either of them will win and say, okay, we'll only use Azure or AWS. But there is a hybrid cloud situation also. And there is the third element that comes into picture. For example, in the same client scenario, right? They had AWS, they had Azure, and some legacy on-prem stuff. It doesn't end there. They have Informatica SaaS solution. It is also a cloud solution. All right. So it's not the platform. So if you're talking about DevOps in specific, uh, it's not about the platform, but the practices, right? How do you automate stuff? How do you make sure whatever you're doing is repeatable? Okay. Meaning today, if I set up, let's say, 10 servers on AWS, out of which two are running, let's say, something like Nginx, five are running, let's say, Tomcat, and another four servers are running, let's say, MySQL. So tomorrow you might get almost same requirement with slight change in the numbers or different requirements, right? So how do I do the same thing? How do I set up the same thing without actually, starting from reinventing the wheel, right? So you need to have configuration in such a way that code in such a way that the same thing can be recreated. The same thing applies to AWS, Azure, or on-premise infrastructure. On-premise infrastructure definitely has some limitations. Okay, or you need to create a way in which your applications are deployed onto AWS or Azure. So if you're running Kubernetes on AWS or Azure, yes, slightly the naming changes here and there, and some concepts change, but it's the same. Okay. Uh, but when it comes to the cloud operations itself, AWS and Azure, yes, some are only differences in words, but there is also governance difference. For example, I'll give you an example. In AWS, we call it as EC2 instance. In Azure, we call it as VM. Okay. In GCP also, we call it as VM. In here, we call it as VPC. I'm going to cover these things also. I will give you some idea about AWS in our course. Here we call it as VNet, virtual network. Okay. So it's mostly the naming that differs, but there are some implementation differences also, which you will understand only when you work on them. Okay. So but if you gain confidence in Azure infrastructure services, okay, if you understand how to, for example, in Azure, okay, another major example, in Azure, you cannot create anything without creating a resource group. Okay. So resource group is like what you can say is like a folder. Okay. In AWS, there is no such concept as resource group. It is there, but it works in a different way. Okay. But in Azure, resource group is like primary. If you want to do anything, if you want to create a even single VM, you need a resource group. If you want to create a single storage bucket, you need to create a resource group. Okay. So that's the implementation difference. In GCP, for example, you have project. So yeah, there are naming differences, there are implementation differences as well. But if you understand the concepts, right? If you understand the concepts, if you understand some principles like how does what do you need to know about anything? How are the accounts organized? In Azure, we don't call them accounts. In AWS, we call them accounts. In Azure, we call them as subscriptions. Okay, how are they organized? Who can manage what access? That's what we call as IAM, identity and access management. Okay, we are going to focus on IAM as well in Azure. Okay, um, so IAM is completely different in AWS and Azure. Okay, but you know the IT principles, right? How to create separate VNets for different tiers of, like, you should not have your database and application residing on the same VMs. We have to create on separate VMs. How to create what we call as you know uh, loosely decoupled applications, or how to have redundancy, meaning same kind of servers running in multiple places. In when it comes to cloud, you have to run it in what we call as multiple AZs. Okay, so we will cover all these topics, but from Azure perspective. But if you are interested, once this course is over and you think you're very confident, maybe you can try some exam like AZ 900, or if you're very confident, you can go for AZ 104. But I would say AZ 104 itself, it's a bit complex. I would say you will need to do some reading after the course, and you can do that. But AZ 900 should be easy for you. Okay, but after, let's say, 3-4 months of working and making your hands dirty in Azure, if you feel like learning AWS, most of the concepts will make sense to you, and it will be easy to understand. It's not like you're seeing that for the first time. Okay, you can correlate. That's what I mean to say from the cloud perspective. From the DevOps perspective, again, like I said, um, again, going back to the course curriculum, Terraform, here we are going to here I'm going to show you how to use it uh, in the Azure context. But once you learn the concepts of Terraform, like what is a variable, okay, what is a resource, what is Terraform output, and all these things, you can implement the same thing in AWS. But of course, you need to know something about AWS as well. Okay, or I said I will share the Ansible recorded videos. Ansible can be applied for any systems, irrespective of whether they are running on AWS or Azure. Linux, for instance. So Linux is an operating system, right? Whether your VM is, if you have to troubleshoot some VM, it doesn't matter whether it's on-premise, Azure, or AWS. The commands are the same, right? The commands are the same for Linux everywhere. GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is again something not related to AWS or Azure. You can use either with AWS systems or Azure systems, but how do you integrate them? Slightly differs. Okay. Docker and Kubernetes, again, they are cloud native. Cloud native in the sense they work the same way on Azure, AWS, or on-prem, doesn't really matter, right? So there is some overlap. There is also some difference. That's my point. Does that answer your question? Did I lose you again?
Yes, Kiran. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So not an easy answer, but yeah, there are differences. Okay. Any other questions? So yeah, I mean, it happens naturally to me. But again, I'll just tell you this as well. When I'm talking about Azure concepts, I will also kind of correlate them to AWS and how it is different in terms of, let's say, which is better, and the pricing wise also. But these things keep on changing. The pricing details keep on changing. Azure trying to get deals with large organizations, and they clinch the deals at a multi-year level, so their pricing will be slightly not so transparent at the onset.
Is it only like development and operations, like something like the automated deployment kind of thing? Like, what is the gist of DevOps actually? Why is it mainly used? Why is it so popular nowadays? How it has come to market?
Okay, yeah. So um, DevOps, like, I think it's I can we can safely say, like, at least early adopters adopted it at least 10 years ago. Um, so again, like I said, that the challenge was this, right? You had two different units, and I'll tell you, I worked in an organization like for a longer time, so I can tell you confidently from the reporting perspective also, these teams worked on completely isolated manner. Okay, so this was called as solutions group. It was called as, I mean, I'm making up these names. Okay, this was known as uh, technology group or whatever. Okay, global technology group, global solutions group. I'm not talking about two different companies, two different departments within the same company. Okay, so these people are made of, I mean, the people in this organization are made of developers, business analysts. I'm giving a real life example for you from my experience, and QA engineers. This is purely made of, okay, operations experts, meaning the traditional server operations. Okay, like who who logs into a VM, checks for the, I mean, doing the patching, or if not patching, some configuration changes, monitoring, and everything. Okay, even the business leaders are separate, but both of these teams are separating the same set of applications. Okay, for example, there is an application called as, let's call it as you know, let's call it as, tax finder. This solutions group is working on writing the code and testing it and everything. But at the end of the day, they have to come to this group to get it deployed on their production servers. Okay. So is the case with other teams also. Okay. Let's say there is another application called as, you know, global VC group, global VC app, whatever. I'm just making up these names. So again, both teams are working on the same app in a different capacity. Okay. So there is a invisible iron curtain. Like both of the teams are separated. These teams don't know what this happening here. These teams don't know what's happening here. So from this, there came a concept stating that so here, let's say there are 10 people. So all the 10 people might be working on tax finder. Okay. All the 10 people might be also working on the global VC app. Based on who is available first, they will do pick up. So these 10 people must have expertise in both these applications in terms of the infrastructure and the configuration and everything. Here also, let's say there are 10 BAs. All the 10 BAs are working on both the applications. Okay. There are, let's say, 10 devs. All the 10 devs are also working on both these applications. 10 QAs working on this. So from this, they thought, okay, this is creating a lot of problems because uh, they're making a lot of changes, but these people don't know what is happening. So then Agile came. What does Agile say? Agile say, right, your team should be very small. You have to focus on only one application, right? So then with this, team divisions started happening, smaller teams. Here only, let's say, one BA is assigned, or two BAs are assigned to this one, and three developers are assigned to this one, and two QAs are assigned. And also the ops folks are not sitting separately now. They're part of this team. Okay. They're part of this team, and let's say two ops engineers. So now this is what Spotify called as pod model. Each team is like a pod, and they're called as cross disciplinary because every team has all the required skills. Like they have their own BA is business analyst. He's the person who takes business requirements and converts them into technical requirements. Okay, meaning business says something very, business teams cannot talk in terms of technology, right? They say we need this butter to be bigger and very and once you click it, it should give something. But how do he has to explain that to the developers? That's the BA job anyway. So these cross-functional teams has come into picture. So now what happened is the main idea of DevOps is to break the silos between ops and the development teams. Silos in the sense break the barriers. So make them sit together from day one and start working on the problems. So these people might be writing code, but these people are the ones who will take the code to the production. So instead of they working separately, if they sit together, they participate in the daily stand-ups, okay, they understand each other's blockers, then the ultimate goal of all this is, I told this in the demo, what is the ultimate goal of demo? Shorten the release life cycles with highest quality. Okay. Also maintain applications with high availability. Okay. So what is shortening the release cycle, right? For example, there is business person. Okay. He says, okay, government of India has made some changes to the, uh, you know, product owner. Let's call him as product owner. Okay. Government of India has made some changes to the tax laws. Okay. I want those changes to be added in this tax finder app, and uh, there are two systems right now, whatever, old system and new system. So there should be a toggle feature, right? Like a drop down, you can select old or new. So people should be able to select old system or new system, and based on that they should get their tax calculated for this year. Okay, that's what this product owner suggests. So that's the idea, and that's the beginning of your life cycle. Then it goes to the BA. The BA plans it with the devs and QAs and everyone, and ops team implements it. So once the ops team implements and it is in live and the end user sees it, that's when it is implemented, the last phase. Okay, so from the time the idea has come till the time it has been implemented, that is your life cycle. So that life cycle has to be short. If it is not short, his competitor might be someone else. Okay, maybe ClearTax or whoever it is, and he might come up with that solution faster, and that will attract people to their website, to their solution. Okay, so the DevOps work is to shorten this life cycle, but also with good quality. Let's say you implemented the new feature, but it is full of bugs. People who are selecting the old system are seeing new system. People who are selecting new system are seeing the old system or mixed garbage. So it's not good. You have to deliver with very good quality. Okay. And also maintain applications with high availability. Yes, you implemented a new feature, but what if it crashes, right? So that is also, so that's for that. There are two pronged changes you need, three changes in fact, three important things. One is you need the people with the right skills, you need the right processes. Like I said, the process is bringing these teams together. When I say bringing these teams together, not literally making them sit in one room, but I mean to say, they have to feel that they are part of one team. They have to participate in the stand-ups, daily calls, and share common book of work, and have these scrum rituals and everything. That's the process part. And very very important, tooling. What is the tooling, right? So when a developer makes a change, how soon he can see the change in a dev environment? Okay, meaning a dev environment is like a replica of your production, which is only visible to your internal people. So they should be able to see the same change you made in production on your dev environment. I mean, before you make it to production, you have to see the change in dev and see how it is working. Then the QS will do all the test scenarios. Okay, they will see, if I click on this button and this button, is it working actually in a right way or not? Okay, all these things. So what the ops or the
Okay. నేను వస్తాను ఓకేనా.
DevOps person's job is the DevOps person's job is create that tooling which will help the developers deploy the code faster. Okay, the QAs test it faster and get the results faster. And if there is any bugs, they should get the feedback faster, and the circle continues. Okay, and also you have to focus on other things like you know availability. So the developer is focusing on the features, how the code works, but you have to focus on how to make sure your application never goes down. So what do? You create your multiple servers and all this stuff. Okay, that's why DevOps has come into picture. That's why it is uh, in demand. Yeah, in a way. Questions? So again, like I said, it's a process change. It's a change of mindset, but also if it is only a process change and a change of mindset, nothing will change. You would need the required tools also to achieve that shorter life cycles. Okay, so again, another example I'll give you from real life, right? So you see, every app constantly these days is getting updates, right? Including your banking apps, right? They on your Android phone I'm talking about, or on your iOS, every 1 week or 2 weeks you'll see an update. There is an upgrade to your app, or 10 apps need upgrades. That means people are adding new features. Not only that, not only features, fixing the bugs. Let's say in your code there is in your application there is a bug, right? So that has to be fixed immediately. So if it has to be fixed, you cannot directly put the code in the production. That will lead to more bugs. But before that, you put it in your test environment or dev environment. So ops team comes in here and makes the life of DevOps and QA, developers and QA easy. Okay, and at the larger scale, a DevOps also has to come up with a software engineer mindset, not as an operations mindset. What is the operations mindset? Operations mindset is always thinking about fixing the issue then and there and close it. But the software engineering mindset is about thinking of how not to make it repeat. Or if it is a problem that cannot be immediately fixed, can I automate the solution in any way? Okay, can I make it uh, easy to fix it? Like maybe I run a periodic script that will fix this issue if there is no permanent fix. So thinking about these things, or let's say uh, there is a regular what do you call let's say a reporting tool, or there is no reporting tool, but your team needs reports from Jira or Atlas, let's say any other tool. Okay, there is, so can you automate this for your management so that your management don't have to go to the tool and click on 10 links to get a simple report? Instead, can you automate these things? So this is also part of your DevOps life. Okay, so basically it's all about automation, automation, and automation. Okay, but again, you need to understand the business value that you're bringing and then automate it. Okay, I think I've given you a lot of gyan. Any other question?
Yeah, Karan, I agree. We have to look forward for the ROI.
Yeah, yeah, what is in it for the business, right?
Yeah, returns on investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm okay from my end.
Okay, so it's almost at the top of the hour. I wanted to talk about okay, let's take another 10-15 minutes and I will talk about our first topic. Okay, so first week we are not going to do much hands-on. It's going to be me talking a lot. Of course, you can ask me questions. But what I'm trying to make you understand is I'm sure all of you must be from different backgrounds. So it might many of the terminology, many of the terms might be new to you, or some of the things might be totally out of the loop. So I want you to just understand and get some basics. Okay, so I will start with a simple question, and it's open for anyone to answer. uh, okay, ignore my don't ignore, I mean, I use DuckDuckGo instead of Google. But let's say, okay, my question is, do you know what happens from the time, let's say I enter a URL, something like google.com, and I hit enter. From the time I hit enter till the time it loads the page. I know it doesn't give much time for us, like, the internet today is very fast. Um, so, but from the time I type the IP, not the IP address, sorry, from the time I type the website name, address of the website, and hit enter till the time it loads, in those milliseconds or microseconds, do you know what happens? Anyone can answer. I mean, there's no good and wrong answers. Did you understand my question, or do you want me to repeat?
Yeah, it goes to the web
Can you
server,
please repeat it?
application server. It goes to the web server, then the application server, it
One
hits the
second.
URL.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me repeat the question. Okay. So what I want to understand is, from the time, let's say I want to go to a particular website, let's say google.com. Okay. From the time I enter the, I, you know, hit enter after typing the website name. Okay. And till the time the page loads. Okay. So what happens? Okay. Someone was saying something. So,
Uh, client server validation will happen. What I have
okay. Let's
mentioned
say I
so
don't
far.
know. I don't know what is a client. I don't know what is a server.
Okay,
Normally,
so
it
to
will
be
go
open,
to the
what
global
is the
DNS
DNS?
server,
Okay.
global DNS, yeah. So, and it will
Mm.
search for the what exactly the google.com, and it'll get the IP address of the google.com. Then it'll then it can find the Google search engine, the web server.
Okay.
Then
So
we got this page, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'm writing down all the keywords that people are answering here. Okay. So yeah. So client server, DNS server, web server. Okay. Different servers we have heard, but client server is not one word. It's client server anyway. Okay. Client and server relationship. Okay. So yeah, we'll come to this point. DNS server, global DNS server. Where does this sit? How does your computer know where to go to this DNS server?
It's IP computing.
IP computing.
It's a,
Who does that?
Internet protocol computing. So
oh,
where
it
it connects
is
to the servers.
like the your domain name, right? So when you type the google.com,
Hmm.
so it is the .com is the which is the tree, and under that lot of .com, I mean the domains, right? So it'll go to the
Okay,
.com, then yeah,
okay, that's fine. But
there are
how does it know to
yeah.
which DNS server it has to go? Yeah, you can say simply that the
It's
browser should
yeah,
know
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
Exactly. So
domain
yeah.
network,
domain.
DNS means domain network servers, right?
Domain.
Networks.
Anyone else wants to try? What's the correct one?
Yes, is understanding the domain network server names.
Any port
Mm,
number?
anyone wants to try? What the name? What does DNS stand for? Domain is right.
Domain naming spaces. Domain
Domain
naming
names
servers.
service
Domain name service. Okay,
service.
we'll also call it as server sometimes, but domain name service. Okay, all right. So yeah, very good answers. Yeah, you're all right. Okay. Um, Before we go into the web server part, first let's talk about the DNS server part itself. Okay. So yeah, Google.com. You might say it's very popular, but what if I launch a website? Okay, I want to launch a website called as Special Ops K. Okay, because Kiran is my name. I want to do special ops K dot com. Okay, or dot me, or these days we have so many things. Dot com. Okay, but how do they know? And I'm hosting it in my AWS servers, for example. Okay, or my own home server. I bought a server, HP server in my home, and I put it in a corner, and I'm running some software which will present this website. But how does everyone knows where to come to this specialopsk.com? How do they know that in this person's home there is a server and I have to go there? Yes, I'm connected to the internet. My server is also connected to the internet, but how do they know it? Right? Ever thought of it?
Yeah, before you store your data in domain name in the cloud, right?
In the cloud. Okay. So
You might
before
have
the cloud, how
registered
did
your
things happen?
URL. You might
Hmm.
have registered your domain name in the global DNS.
Right. Okay. Global
That is
DNS.
kind of public domain, public DNS, whatever. Yeah, you can say.
Hmm. Okay. Good.
There could
Right.
be
So
some hosting all the websites, some third-party tool. Yeah, you can say
yeah, very
Daddy,
good.
GoDaddy,
So
or whatever.
yeah. So that very good. Yeah, hosting provider. We'll talk about that as well. So also, if you have worked in a large corporations, right? Let's say you're working for some company called as Alico. Okay, some random company. So sometimes you might access a website called as you know uh, hrportal.calico.com, but this can be accessible only within your organization's network or VPN. If you come out, it won't be accessible, right? That's because of internal DNS. We'll come to that as well. Okay, before that, for those you know who are wondering about all these terms, so first thing we need to understand is domain name. Okay, so the way the World Wide Web was designed is that there will be a domain name, okay, and there will be a top level domain, and there is the root server. Someone said, right, like tree, the root server. There is a dot at every. We don't see that, but for example, when you type in google.com or even www.google.com, there is a dot at the end. We don't see it. It doesn't matter even if we don't enter it, but it is invisible and it is there. What is that? I'll talk about it. Okay. So initially, if you are old like me, there are only very few .com top level domains. Top level domains is this one. Okay. There was .com, there was .org, there was .us, particularly for gov.us, for example, for the US government sites. Then there was, for sometimes there was co.in, there was sometimes .in. Australia has .com.au, UK has .co.uk. What else you can think of? So these were .edu was later added, educational institutions, right? So these were only the top level domains. But if you look at the top level domains now, you have .me, .website, .this, .that, everything is there these days. Okay, top level domains. But anyway, who decides these things? That's one thing. Let's park it for a side. Okay, who decides these names? Okay, but I can create my own website using whatever little programming I know in HTML and just CSS and Java. I created a program. Can I create my own website called as google.com? What is stopping me from doing that? Can I do that?
Yeah, there is a two ways, like free hosting or
Yeah,
free
hosting.
hosting is
Yeah, I will
available.
host it anywhere. That doesn't matter. Okay,
Okay.
but
It's a duplication, right? It's a duplication of the
duplication.
domain.
So how can we stop that? So that's why I said, right, we have to talk
Registration.
about a central agency.
Registration.
Registration, exactly. Just like how you have your vehicle registration. For example, if you have AP16 8990, you cannot have it. You can. No one else can have it, right? No one else can legally have it, right? They can spoof it or they can fake it, but they cannot own it, right? So similarly,
Correct.
who manages these numbers? State RTAs, right? Regional Transport Associations or whatever you call authority, Regional Transport Authority. Similarly, in case of domain names, we have ICANN and IANA. Okay, Internet Consortium for Addresses and Naming. I think again I always forget. ICANN. Let's see. Don't remember. Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Assigned names is nothing but your, you know, DNS names or domain names. Similarly, there is IANA. Okay, IANA is another organization, Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. Okay, standard global IP addresses. It will work on addresses. I will talk about IP address in a minute. Okay, so like someone said, but these people cannot control everything, right? So what they have under, I mean, these are not for profit organizations. Okay, these are like independent organizations. Under these, they what they do is they work with various registrars. We call them as registrars. So like someone already said, there is GoDaddy, which is a registrar. There is Namecheap, another registrar. There is, don't go for GoDaddy ever. It's the worst registrar service. Okay. What else? We have AWS. You can register. Google has its own registrar, but it will not. It is not accessible for outside people, but they have their own registrar. Okay. GoDaddy, Namecheap, AWS,
Ultra
Cloud.
DNS, Ultra DNS
Ultra DNS.
would be,
Mm,
yeah.
never heard of it, but yeah, we can see some, let's say, domain name registrars. Anyway, the point I'm trying to say is if you have to get a website, you have to go to any of these registrars. So if I bought, let's say, specialopsk.com domain from Namecheap, can someone go to AWS and buy the same thing? No, because all of these have will check from the ICANN or IANA database, ICANN database, and it will be shown as registered and no one else can register it. Okay, no matter how many registrars are there, the central authority is the same, the central database is the same. Okay, they cannot, you cannot buy anything. Okay, maybe there is specialopsk.me available at AWS. I mean, if it is available at AWS, it will be available at GoDaddy as well. It doesn't really matter. Okay, uh, but based on the pricing, the offers, and the way you can manage your DNS, you buy from wherever you want to buy. Okay, uh, right. So once I buy specialopsk.com, I cannot buy it from anywhere else. All right. No one else can buy it from anywhere else. I own this domain name. Okay. Of course, I have to pay my annual fees, part of which will go to ICANN. Okay. Um, so now, once I buy the domain, see, I can buy a website called as specialopsk.com, but if you open it, it might not open anything, right? Because I might not set up a website. It's like this. I mean, it cannot happen in the in case of vehicles. You have to buy a vehicle only, then you can get a name. But it's like movie titles, you know, right? If you have a if you have an idea for a movie title, you go to your in case of Telugu film industry, I think it's called I think you go to Ma. Uh, movie artist association or somewhere, and you can register the title, and for the next 5 years no one can touch it. You don't have a story, you don't have a movie, but you can register a title. Similarly, we can buy the domain names without having a website. But when I create my website, I create it on a server or a bunch of servers, and they have an IP address. Okay, so computers have IP addresses. Okay, they look like this. They look like this, something like this. Okay, this is IPv4 format. So these are like phone numbers. Okay, so now DNS, coming back to the concept of DNS is like your good old telephone directory. Anyone remember the telephone directory? No one, I guess. Okay, uh, so back in the day, your local telecom authority, district wise, used to print book of phone numbers. There was no concept of privacy back then, really. All your phone numbers were, I mean, even today in India, phone numbers are sold like that. But anyway, uh, telephone directory is a book which had all the names of the people who had a phone connection, because at the time only BSNL had those connections, right? So your name and sometimes even the street name also, but mostly phone number. So if I am in a particular town, I can go there and buy a telephone directory, and let's say I'm looking for a P Apparao. I can go to P and look for P Apparao, and I'm very sure to find P Apparao's number if he's already there, if he has already taken a BSNL subscription. Okay, I'm talking about 90s, before cell phone was there. Okay, even early 2000s, or any name you can find it, and their phone number is also there. It's a must. Telephone directories are printed officially, and they are prints. Okay, so let's say he's in Hyderabad, his phone number might be something like, like this. So you can find the phone number and call him. But in case of computers, they would need IP address to reach to any server. For that, what you do is, once you buy a website, okay, you just take the permission for this one to use this name. But whenever you want to use, you can use it. So once you build your website, and let's say your website is running on the server which has this IP address, then you can go to your registrar and say that, hey, I want to add a DNS entry. I want to give my specialopsk.com a real address. Okay, a real address that computers can understand. So this is the IP address. Okay, so you create something. This is literally called as a record, address record. Okay, so you create a record in your registrar and say that, okay, whenever someone is trying to access specialops.com, send him to this IP address. Okay, so not only Namecheap. Now what happens is, see, this is how the journey begins. When you type the address google.com, first thing, your browser will search its own cache. What is cache, or cache as some people call it? Cache
A
is nothing but
temporary memory.
temporary memory which is
Uh,
frequently accessed, maybe. Okay, so your browser will look for the cache, its own cache. If not, it looks in your computer's cache. Okay, if not, the next hop, where does your browser goes from the computer's cache, computer in the sense you have a literally the way the transfer happens is through your NIC card, network interface card, or Wi-Fi card. Okay, so from your Wi-Fi card, where does the next hop goes to? In order to reach to the internet, whether you're browsing on your mobile or in your laptop, where does to which device you are needed to be connected? If you're connecting a wireless Wi-Fi connection, your router, right? Your home router, right? Hello, you there?
Yes.
yeah,
So most of the routers also have their own cache. They can maintain the cache of the frequently addressed IP addresses. Okay. If the router also doesn't have, let's say it's specialopsk.com, no one has ever accessed. So your browser doesn't have it cached, your computer's cache is not there, and your router also doesn't have it cached. Then your router goes to, what is the next hop? Whatever request we are making from our home network. Okay. If you're connected to an ISP, what is ISP?
Internet server pages.
Internet
No. That is ASP, active server pages. This is
Internet service
internet.
provider.
Exactly,
Service
internet
provider.
service provider. Yeah, like
Ah,
your,
okay.
Airtel or Geo. Geo also has broadband these days, right? Geo, or what else? We have Act, which is popular in India, Bangalore, Hyderabad. Okay, so yeah, ISP. From the ISP, it goes to the ISP. Also doesn't have it because it's a brand new website. No one has ever accessed it. So if your ISP doesn't have, your ISP has something called as DNS resolver. It resolves the IP addresses. It is not there in your DNS resolver. It is going to go to what is called as some. I mean, many of people said global DNS and all that, but DNS again has multiple levels. The first level is your root DNS. I said, right, there is a dot behind every website name. The dot which we can't see, that's the root DNS. So your root DNS will check and it sees if it has the name. But root DNS has the list of all the top level domains .com, .edu, .org, .co.uk, .me, .website, okay, .info, .channel, .tv. We have everything these days, I guess. Okay, .tv. Again, I can decide all these names. Okay, so it has information about all these websites. So root DNS server sees the website I'm asking is specialopsk.com. Okay, so specialopsk.com. So it says, I don't know the IP address for this one, but I know you need to go to the .com root server, .com server. So this is called as TLD, top level domain servers. So each top level domain has its own DNS server. So .com also has its own top level. See, these things you don't have to by heart or remember anything, but it's just for your information. Okay. So it will go to the top level domain, to the .com, and here it has the list of all the websites, because whenever you register with the website, the information will be sent to the top level domain. So here it says, okay, specialopsk.com. I don't have the IP address, but I know from where this IP address was, from where this DNS was bought. Okay, please go to Namecheap. Let's say I bought this from a registrar called as Namecheap. So it will send me to Namecheap. So Namecheap, in the Namecheap, I maintain my records. I say, okay. Now Namecheap says, okay, you're looking for specialopsk.com. Here is the IP address. Take it. 19 dot. And anyways, maybe in the third or fourth week, we are going to see this in demo. So don't worry. Okay. So specialops.k. Okay, this person has bought it from me, and he also made an entry in my list. He's saying that specialopsk.com can be accessed at this website, this address, 19.29.19. Now, on the way back, the Namecheap server, okay, the Namecheap DNS server, when it sends, the path is also the same. The written path is also same. It has to go to the top level domain. So now top level domain caches it for the next one day or whatever you want to set it up as. Okay, so the caching happens here, and again it sends to the root DNS. The caching happens here, and again it it sends to the ISP. In the DNS resolver, the caching happens in your router happens. So what that means is DNS is a highly distributed system. So why is this caching important? For example, today you accessed from this computer. Tomorrow, someone else might access from their own mobile phone, the same website. Then it need not go through all these things. It can simply go to the router, and from the router cache, it can get it. Or let's say someone else who is using the same ISP is trying to access the specialopsk.com. Then it need not go through all these paths again. It can simply go to your ISP and it will get the response faster. Okay. Or if even if he's accessing from a different DNS, it is cached at the DNS root DNS or dot server, so it can take it from there. Okay, so this is how DNS works. Okay, important thing to remember is computers addresses are in the form of IP addresses. Okay, this is IPv4 address. Now today we have IPv6 address, which is much longer and also alphanumeric. Okay, we'll talk about IPv6 later, but just know this. Okay, if you have to access anything, so when you're doing a WhatsApp chat also, you're sending a message to WhatsApp server, not your friend's phone. Okay. See, someone said client server relationship, right? So the way client server relationship work is Let me draw this. So let's say you're sending, I'm talking to you on a go-to meeting. Okay. I'm talking from my browser and you're listening to on your laptop app or browser, doesn't really matter. Okay. So am I directly contacting you? No, I don't know your IP address, but my browser knows GoToMeeting's IP address. Okay. So I'm talking to GoToMeeting and you are also talking to GoToMeeting. Okay. So both of us need to know only the GoToMeeting website. We don't have to know, sorry, IP address. We don't need to know each other's IP address. Of course, you don't even need to know GoToMeeting IP address. Your systems, because your DNS knows that. Okay, in your system there is a DNS address already configured. So if I say, what is the domain name exactly? Goto.com. Okay, so if I say ping goto.com, this is the IP address of goto.com. Okay, but if you try, you might get a different one. There is a reason for that. I'll talk about that little later. There is one more element in it. But generally, our systems have the DNS capability to resolve the IP addresses. If they don't resolve, they go to our ISP. Okay, if your ISP doesn't know, they will go to who? The root server, root DNS server, which has the dot at the end. Okay, if that doesn't know, they go to the .com top level domain, which is .com or .edu or whatever it is. Then they will send to the right person, or what is the right person here? The registrar. Okay, the registrar. Okay, so there is one awesome YouTube video which I would like you all to watch, because we all need to understand how DNS works. You know, you don't have to by heart any of these things, like you don't have to remember what does TLD means and all, but it's good to know how DNS works. The video itself is how DNS works. Don't tell me that video is removed. Yeah, I think this is the one. Sorry, I did not have my ad blocker on. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, anyway, so I would say all of you watch this video and also install ad blocker on your laptops so that YouTube doesn't show the ads. Okay, so again, a very high level overview. Computers communicate with each other through IP addresses. To know the IP address, because human beings cannot remember IP addresses, we have domain names. Okay, so we enter the domain name and our computers do the work of finding the IP address. How do they find it? They find it through, you know, uh, the, the DNS servers, which are again highly distributed, and through that we connect to other systems. Okay, so tomorrow we'll talk about client server architecture. Someone already talked about it. Okay, so in fact, very simple. Okay, you will always hear this word client and server. Okay, um, so client is someone who is making a request, server is someone who is responding to your request. For example, if I type in google.com on a browser, my browser is the client. Okay, and google.com is the server that is giving me response. Okay, but there is another catch here. Let's say I type DNS in my Google search engine and hit enter. See, there are some parts which Google fetches from different other systems. For example, it is getting a blurb out of Wikipedia and presenting here a short description from Wikipedia. So this is, so in this case, what happened? I made a request to Google servers. So Google has given me the output, but Google also need to contact someone else to get some of the information. In this case, for example, Wikipedia. So when Google contacts Wikipedia to get some description, now who is the client and who is the server in this case? Yeah. Now I made a request to Google about DNS, and Google has fetched some information from Wikipedia. So in this case, I am the client, Google is the server. But when Google made a request to Wikipedia, who is the client? I think this should come here actually. Okay, so Wikipedia is the server, Google is the client. Okay, it doesn't really matter who is, I mean, whether you are a web server or a physical server or whatever it is. If you're making a request, you are a client. If you're serving a request, you are a server. Okay, that's a simple terminology, nothing else to be understood there. Okay, all right, I think we took almost 90 minutes. We'll wind up here and continue tomorrow with our client server architecture and basics of IT infrastructure, like how are your what is this word we hear called a server, what is a virtual machine, what is a physical machine. Okay, we'll understand about these things and why are these important for us. That also help you understand the cloud concepts. Okay,
Uh,
you,
yeah, hi Kiran, this is Prasad.
yeah,
Please share the course content.
you haven't got the Word document yet?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
I'll ask them to share with you. Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Nothing from my side.
Okay, then please go through the video. It's a short video, but well explained, and talk to you all tomorrow then.
Same timing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let's try to be here by 5:30 and sorry 9 p.m. IST, and yeah. All right. If you have any questions at all, I'm still here. Otherwise, we can wind up.
The same duration from the class, 90 minutes or
Uh,
every day?
no, I
60
don't want to
minutes.
keep this longer. Yeah, 60, 70 minutes maximum. Because
Yeah,
today
okay,
we
sir.
also had to do the recap of the demo and all that.
Okay.
How many days you gonna take to complete the course?
Like I said, right, we would need about 50 to 55 sessions.
Oh, okay.
And again, I really don't like to keep it as a time bound, but complete the topics we want to do.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Bye, Kiran.
Bye bye.
Yeah, thanks, Kiran. Bye. Good night.
Thank you. Bye bye.